Hello and welcome to Reportage. This is Daanish bin Nabi. In today's segment of Reportage, I shall be talking to the author Dhirendra to talk about his recently released book, Golwalkar, The Myth Behind the Man Behind the Machine, which is published by Simon & Schuster. The book debunks many myths about RSS and its second chief, Mr. Golwalkar. More from the author. Sir, I would like to ask you about the initial passages, initial chapters of the book, which deals with Golwalkar's Banaras University days. You write that he was a lab assistant and not a professor.
Yeah, so he was actually, and the entire, uh, uh, you know, myth about Golwalkar being a professor in Banaras Hindu University was started by Golwalkar himself when he wrote his book "We or Our Nationhood Defined" in 1939. In that book, he introduced himself as professor, an ex-professor. Actually, he uses the term sometime professor Banaras Hindu University. But the fact is that when he joined BHU, uh, about 15 days after joining BHU, he wrote a letter to his friend in which he clearly mentions that that he had joined there as lab assistant, as demonstrator. It was a leave vacancy and it was temporary, so he was feeling jittery about it. He wanted a secure life, a secure job. Uh, so he himself does that. Later, I even checked the archives of BHU and I found that there was a demonstrator named DL Pawar who had gone on leave. And during that period, Golwalkar was asked to work as demonstrator there. And that was the only time when he worked in the BHU.
So, the first myth you break in this book is that he was not a professor but a lab assistant.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, was Golwalkar anywhere, anytime associated with India's freedom movement struggle?
Not at all.
Not at all.
See, yeah. See, the entire, in fact, Golwalkar joins RSS much later, but even RSS was founded on the principle of uh, convincing Hindus that their interests were more incompatible with Muslims, a section of fellow Indians, than British colonialists. So that was the foundational objective of RSS. So RSS itself was away from the freedom movement. Golwalkar was never part of it. And when he joined, he was RSS. He followed his own line as well as the line of RSS, and he stayed away from freedom movement. Any British struggling, any anti-British struggle.
So, help me understand the RSS organization. Is there a connection between RSS and Peshwa rule of Marathas? Do they draw any inspiration from the Peshwa rule?
Yeah. So yes. See, uh, the RSS uh, was founded as a as a Brahmin organization, I would say, right? Uh, and its flag was that of Peshwas. Now, uh, in Maharashtra, it is important to understand uh, this organization in the context of a particular mindset of a section of Maharashtrian Brahmins who uh, who was quite nostalgic about Peshwa rule. Peshwas were Brahmins. So restoration of Peshwa rule, that means Brahmin rule, was the central objective of the RSS when it started its journey.
So they draw a bit of inspiration from the Peshwa rules. In the book, you write after Golwalkar, sorry, after Savarkar writes mercy petitions when he was arrested. He directs all his energies towards the Muslims. Did it help the British to divide and rule in India?
Yeah, so see, Savarkar started his life as an anti-British, uh, Tilak loyalist uh, person. He was anti-British even when he was in London, and at that time, while in London, he wrote a book on 1857, which he called Indian War of Independence. He didn't call it Hindu War of Independence. So it was, so his position was clear at that time. Later, he was arrested in 1911. He was sent to Andaman Nicobar Islands in Sailor Jail, and immediately after that, he started writing mercy petitions in which he started saying that he would remain loyal to the government. He would not do anything that would that would harm the government, etc., etc. Now these petitions continue, but in 1920, you see, this is very important to understand the shift that takes place. In 1920, in March 1920, he writes mercy petition in which, apart from saying all those things, he also says that uh, we have common enemies. He doesn't use the word Muslim, but he uses the term uh, Turco-Afghan hordes coming from western, northwestern borders of India. And but now this is the time when uh, Gandhiji, Khilafat movement had already started, and Gandhiji, Mahatma Gandhi, was already trying to build Hindu Muslim unity and launch a massive all India mass movement against the British. So British were a bit desperate to break this unity of Hindus and Muslims. And it was at this juncture that Savarkar presents himself as useful for the British. Now, if you look at that was the second last mercy petition. After that, he was shifted from Andaman Nicobar to mainland jail. Then he writes another mercy petition in 1921, in which he repeats it. And then he writes a book in 1923 called Hindutva, who is a Hindu. Now, this book is nothing but the extension of the last two mercy petitions, and in which he uh, does kind of communal imagination of India's past in order to locate and fabricate an enemy for Hindus. Now, that becomes the basis of Hindutva politics hereafter. And in this backdrop, RSS was founded as a Hindutva organization. You see, so that was the foundational objective of the RSS right since the beginning.
Which also helped the British in another way in dividing us.
Yes. Yeah, that is what British government wanted. British wanted to implement its divide and rule policy. So here, Hindutva and RSS and all the leaders associated with this ideology and the organization uh, were trying to convince Hindus to fight against Muslims, not against British colonialists. This is exactly what British wanted.
So, Mr. Jha, I want to understand this. Is RSS close to fascism or to Nazism? Because in the book you write that B.S. Munji was very close to Mussolini than Hitler.
Yeah, so, Munje was one of the patrons of RSS when it was founded. And uh, later in 1931, uh, he meets Mussolini. Uh, that was the time when, uh, in late 1920s, 30s, Maharashtrian, Essex and Maharashtrian Brahmins were uh, getting fascinated by European dictatorships. And you will find this but the reflection of this understanding of section of Maharashtrian Brahmins in contemporary newspapers, which were especially those which were run by uh, Brahmins of Maharashtra. So in 1931, of course, he meets uh, Mussolini, and when he comes back, obviously its impact uh, was bound to be visible on the organization. But in terms of ideology, uh, Golwalkar writes a book in 1939, We Are Our Nationhood Defined, in which he praises Hitler, in which he uh, uh, he says that we should learn from the anti-Semitic model of Hitler, and we should use that model for the treatment of Muslims. Now, this part of the ideology continued, although after assassination of Mahatma Gandhi, the reprinting of this book stopped. But this part of the ideology remained the core of the credo of RSS credo, and this has been recorded by several researchers in later days, that they did not actually delink themselves from the philosophy, the ideology of we or our nation who defined. And so this impact of Nazism on RSS is much deeply rooted, and it has survived even now. In fact, what we see in last 10 years or so after RSS captured power through BJP and Modi, uh, whatever we see happening in the country is nothing but the implementation of the ideological project that Golwalkar uh, writes in his We Are Our Nationhood Defined.
So I would like to ask and understand from you. The second myth you break in this book is about how Golwalkar takes your RSS. Did Hedgewar appoint him? So how was the relation between the two? And how was Golwalkar appointed as RSS in 1940?
See, uh, Golwalkar uh, came to, of course, he was in contact with RSS guys when he was in uh, PHU. That was between late 1931, when he was working there, not as a student, when he was working there, between late 1931 and early 1933. Uh, but that contact was very superficial. Later, and he kept moving. Later, he came back, did his law, and uh, you know started doing practice. That didn't work for some time. He went to Sargachi. He wanted to become a monk of Ramakrishna Mission. Even that didn't work. So he came back, and then he came in contact with RSS in a fresh manner, right? And but then he was very ambitious, right, since beginning, and he started getting close and close to Hedgewar. But Hedgewar, till then, was someone else in his mind. Hedgewar wanted Balaji Hudar to become his successor. Balaji Hudar was first Sir Karwa, number two, when Hedgewar became Sir Sangachalak. And but Balaji Hudar's life trajectory changed around mid 1930s. He went to London. He got in touch with the communists over there. He even took part in the Spanish Civil War. So he had become anti-colonialists. And so when he returned in 1938 and met Golwalkar, Hedgewar, it was clear to both of them that they had a separate worldview now. So that was the time when Hedgewar starts focusing on Golwalkar, uh, and then he was met number two, Sarkarwa, in 1939, around the middle of 1939. Next year, about a year later, in 1940, Hedgewar dies. Now, So many myth makings have happened, and this man succeeded in. As I've described in the book, see, the thing is that, if you try to understand what happened during those days on the basis of literature produced after the assassination of Gandhi, you will get one kind of picture. And that picture would tell you that Hedgewar actually appointed him before his death, uh, named his named him as his successor before his death. But if you look at the records, the contemporary records, and contemporary, not just archival records, but also the books which were published uh, before the assassination of Gandhi, then you will get another kind of picture, and then you will realize that it was the handiwork of a clique around Hedgewar, and which considered Golwalkar as more amenable kind of a person, and so that clique worked in favor of Golwalkar. Golwalkar became the second chief of the RSS, and but see, the problem has happened because most of the people have based their understanding of succession in RSS after the death of Hedgewar on literature which were produced after the assassination of Gandhi, and that literature won't give you a clear picture.
So you have also in the book written about the Hindu princes of princely states, and you write and you mention in the book that RSS went all out to support and help these Hindu princes. Why?
Uh, it so happened that immediately after Golwalkar became RSS chief, uh, because of Second World War, the Defense of India Act was implemented, and under that act, uh, all the private militias, including RSS, uh, were prohibited from their parade ground activities. But this act was enforceable only in the British ruled provinces. Without parade ground activities, see, parade ground activities were the main charm for the young Hindu men who were uh, getting attracted towards RSS uh, in those areas, in especially in Bombay Presidency and central provinces where RSS was very active in those days, especially among Brahmins. Uh, so, uh, Golwalkar, with the help of the chief of Bombay Presidency, the RSS chief of Bombay Presidency, RSS Sangh Kasinath Bhaskar Libre, started the RSS work in princely states of Deccan because this act was not enforceable there. So they could easily start their work out there. And so we see that uh, a new kind of space RSS is now creating for itself. Now, this space is very important for the RSS. Very soon we realize that, uh, as the talk of independence and partition uh, gains strength, all the princely estates everywhere, they started getting unsettled because with the end of British rule, there would also be an end of British paramountcy. And so, but these princely estates were quite uncertain about their future. And they started patronizing Hindu Mahasabha because Hindu Mahasabha started advocating the line that Hindu princely estates uh, should be our role model for Indian government, Indian political system. And wherever Hindu Mahasabha went, they started facilitating RSS also. And this way, RSS started entering in these areas. Later, closer to the partition and independence, some of the princely estates, especially those around Delhi, Alwar, Bharatpur, some of the princely estates of Punjab, Rajputana. These in these princely states, RSS started acquiring solid foothold in the name of mobilizing Hindus.
I'm coming to this part of the book now. Shall I pose my question?
Yeah, please.
As the partition draws close, Mr. Golwalkar shifts his base to Delhi. From south he comes to north. Why was it so?
See, Delhi was a nerve center. It was quite obvious that uh, who controls Delhi would control India. Now we see that around this time, uh, Delhi becomes a very important center for RSS activities. So were areas around Delhi like Alwar, Bharatpur, Western UP. All these places, we see a lot of mobilizations taking place by the RSS, and uh, and so the entire uh, process started closing in on Delhi. Everything started closing in on Delhi, and that is why this period uh, gives you, and these are recorded uh, in the archives, how Nehru was feeling jittery about the entire thing that was happening, how he was, in fact, after some time, after independence, since the beginning of September, especially September 4th, when the riot breaks out in Delhi and Muslim areas start getting attacks. Uh, Nehru is feeling so helpless because Patel is not being able to look at RSS in the manner Nehru was looking at it. And so we see that this period uh, has a lot of stuff. In fact, this period requires much more research, which has not happened in significant manner.
Mr. Jha, in the book you have mentioned that after the partition for many weeks, Delhi remained very calm till RSS played its role. It's very important for the researchers and for the readers to scrutinize the role of Sardar Patel. Every report, every intelligence report was pouring into onto his desk, he being the Home Minister. Wasn't he duty bound to stop these riots?
That was the whole problem. He was home minister. He was in charge of the administration, and he was. I mean, all the reports, the secret reports, the intelligence reports that were coming to the government, that must have gone through the home ministry, because home ministry was the in charge of all these departments. So, despite that, when Patel looked at RSS not as part of problem but as part of solution, then it became impossible for Nehru to control the situation, because Nehru was just prime minister. He couldn't have interfered in. He was a Democrat basically. He couldn't have interfered in other ministries. So that is why he was helpless, as I was saying. But yeah, it was Patel's responsibility to deal with this situation.
Why couldn't Nehru remove Patel as Home Minister?
That was not possible. That was not possible. Simply
Why?
not possible. Because you see that time, see in the especially in the aftermath of partition, the entire atmosphere was highly coupled. The organization had Congress as an organization was completely divided between the Nehru faction and Patel faction. And Patel faction, I won't call them communalists, but they were definitely Hindu traditionalists, and they were having control over the organization. So Nehru couldn't have removed Patel. So that is why he every time he felt helpless, he took the issue to the people rather than the organization. Only after Gandhi came back to Delhi on 9th September, and Gandhi started working on the organization itself, apart from other things, that Nehru became strong in terms of organization.
Mr. Jha, I want to understand this. Irony is, after Gandhi was killed, Golwalkar was arrested for almost 6 months. He was released after 6 months. And the irony is that he wanted to do satyagraha against the Nehru government. So, why? How could a person like Golwalkar believe on the concept of satyagraha?
So yeah, so see, after assassination happens, everything changes, right? And now, uh, going to the old means, using old means, would not have been possible now for Golwalkar and the RSS, partly because the mood of the nation had changed, and partly because the entire organization had been completely destroyed. Most of the people were in jail. Golwalkar himself was in jail, and it was just not possible for Golwalkar or the RSS to use their old means. That is why the only means that could have used was satyagraha, the peaceful means.
You have also quoted B.V. Kelkar's Economic Weekly article in the book, which tried to show that there was no link between Godse and RSS. Was Godse a member of RSS?
Definitely, he was. He was a member of RSS. See, the problem is that, uh, Godse, uh, his statement during the trial in court is being used as source of history. The fact is that in that statement, he made several lies. And if you compare that statement with the judgment that was delivered by the court, then you will find that court rejected all the claims of Godse, which he made in his statement. And now, but the RSS pro RSS writers, in fact, right after Godse was hanged, they started claiming that uh, whatever he had said about his relationship with RSS in his court statement was true. But if you look at the archival records, you will get a completely different picture. The archival records, even those records which were seized from RSS headquarters after the assassination of Gandhi, would tell you that Godse was lying when he said that he left RSS and joined Hindu Mahasabha. Because these records would tell you, even their own RSS records would tell you that he continued working for the RSS even after joining Hindu Mahasabha. Even Golwalkar's brother, Gopal Godse, who was also convicted in the case, he got life imprisonment. After coming out of jail, he kept giving interviews and telling people that no, Godse remained a member of RSS throughout his life, and that he said that in the court that he had left RSS because RSS was very nervous. RSS leaders were very nervous. To protect them, he had said this. So he was a member of RSS all his life.
So there is no doubt about it that he was a member of RSS all his life.
Not at all, no doubt. Yes.
Mr. Jha, I am terribly running out of time and we have last 7 minutes left. And I will pose you last two questions. My first question, does RSS have a constitution?
Yeah, of course it has a constitution. The constitution it adopted much later, and that was one of the conditions of the government for lifting the ban in 1949. In which it clearly says that it won't take part in any politics, but it is not following. It has not followed its constitution.
Not right from the beginning, they have not followed the constitution. Their own
No,
constitution.
it has not followed the constitution. It is obvious by now that it has not followed the constitution.
My last question, did CIA help the RSS during anti-cow protests in 1960s?
No, yes, there is. Uh, there was one CIA operative in India, John Day Smith. who
Was a
defected.
journalist.
No, he was CIA operative in India.
Okay.
Yeah, and, he was associated with the U.S. embassy here, and his wife was also CIA operative. And he around beginning of 1960s, he defected to USSR, and there he wrote a series of articles about his experiences in India and in a Russian magazine there. Uh, and in those articles he talks about a lot of things. Now, one of the things that he says is that CIA was very close to RSS. He even says that in 1966 anti-car protection agitation, which was organized mainly by RSS but by other Hindu organizations as well, uh, uh, got support from CIA. He also says that the man who first wrote that Godse had left RSS long before he killed Gandhi was the main CIA operative in India, J.A. Curran Jr. And when I cross-checked with CIA archives, I found that yes, J. Curran Jr. Was their operative. And so again, and J. Curran in his book, which was published in 1951, says that Golwalkar and all other RSS leaders gave him total access. Right. So there is no reason to disbelieve Smith, at least about uh, J. Curran's role in separating RSS from Gandhi's assassin.
Mr. Jah, Golwalkar finally dies of cancer disease. Kindly talk a bit about it so that we can close this interview.
Well, so yeah, so his last days were very painful, and he had cancer, and but he was like till the time cancer actually uh, uh, spread. Uh, he kept traveling, but in the last phase of his life, we see that he was like in a very miserable condition, and that is why much before his death, he wrote his uh, last will in the form of three letters, and so that was it was a sad story. His last phase was really really bad.
I completely understand. Mr. Jah, thank you for your time and thank you for talking to me. And let me hold your book once more so that people buy it, read it, understand about RSS and Golwalkar. Pleasure talking to you, sir. Thank you. Please subscribe to our channel Reportage and press the bell icon to remain updated.